I'm back. For the last few months I've farted around. It's been too cold. I've tidied the garage. I've just smashed up some scrap wood to take to the tip. Chopped down some tree branches. And basically I've run out of excuses. I've actually got to start welding. So I tried looking for a giant sheet of tracing paper and I couldn't really find any, so nothing fancy here. These are just a pack of 10 A4 sheets stuck together with sellotape. My aluminium tank panel here is accurate to the wooden model at the bottom end, so these will be in the right place. Well, these are the two crucial ones, because the tubes linking the port and the engine to this is only about that long, so if they're off by more than a couple of millimeters it'll be a bit of a pain, so it's worth getting these in the right spot. So I've cut them out and I'll just draw a ring in there and then we know where we've got to weld. I bought these so the hose will go over this bump, this bit will be cut off and then welded in. I was actually hoping it will cut the hole slightly small so I can file out the hole, and then this will self-grip in the hole when I put the tack welds on. Got myself some proper welding gloves that have got thinner fingers, give you a little bit more better feel, not these chunky sort of things that you can get in DIY stores. This alloy is 10% magnesium. I can't remember what it's called, but anyway, these are the correct welding rods for it. Magnesium, chromium, something, aluminium. Anyway, I did a lot of research online. These are the correct ones for this alloy, which is a relatively hard alloy. Unlike the stuff I made the bodywork from, which is actually quite soft, because you want to be able to wheel it and hammer it and things without it cracking. I'm not going back now. So what I've got here, I've got 3 screws, pretty simple, 3 screws in a triangle into my work surface, which means I can adjust the height a little bit at a time, and that means I can put these hose mounts that I've made in here and I can move it up and down to get it just the right height. Some new wide brushes, stainless brushes, got a bottle of acetone, so I've got no excuses. I've been kind of bottling it because I don't really want to cock all this up. It costs quite a bit of money to get all these things laser cut, but I'm going to have to do it, so here we go. Right, just put that in the middle, put some weight on things. Well, I'm pretty pleased with that. That actually went better than expected. So the next thing I've got to do is weld on the ports for my mini heat exchanger radiator thing, which will be there and there, and they will go into the side strips which are here. So I've got to work that out. Right, so we've got a mark here. This panel will be folded to fit, and it'll end here, come around there. So here's the mark for the port. The port needs to come out there, so that's the spot there. I don't want any of my hoses to pop off, so I'm going to put a tiny flare on the end of this pipe, and the easiest way to do that is get a hammer with this kind of end on it and just whack it. It's starting to go, maybe a little bit more. There we are, just a bit. I'll do. Right, so I don't know if you can see that, but oh, there we are. You can see there's a tiny bit of a flare on it. So when the hose goes over it and then the Jubilee clip goes around, Jubilee clip, even if it wants to kind of slip off, it should slip and stop, hopefully. So there's my piece. Here's the drill. I happen to have, well, I think it's 19mm anyway. So the ports now are welded from both sides. And it's the same with these two as well. I need to bend these long side strips now to follow the edges of the tank, and to put the angles in, you're supposed to use a press brake tool, but I don't have a press brake tool, so I'm using my multi-purpose English wheel, which actually has a lot of other uses because it's got all these nice bits of steel that stick out. So here is my take on the press brake. So clamp it on, I mark the line, and then I lean hard on this while hitting it with a hammer along here, big hammer. So there you go. So test fit that, and then I'll start doing these curves, which I'll probably do using this convenient tube here. Managed to get tack weld, tack weld, tack weld. I've got a system that works here now, so this clamp clamps the block to the table, and so it clamps this piece to the table as well, so it can't move. And then we have the edge sticking out just a little bit from the table, and then this clamp pulls the panel which is sticking out, pulls it round till you get it exactly in the right spot, because there's a gap there so you can move it in and out a little bit. And then this one pulls the panel down onto the base plate, as it were, so you don't get a gap if it's twisted at all. So I've half welded it basically. I've done the difficult side with the weird curves. This side's actually easier because it's just got corners, so I can just fold it. I've got to decide what I want to put in here. In fuel tanks, it's traditional to put a panel across the full width with a bend in it, and you weld the tips of the bend. So basically, if the sides want to move a little bit, you give them space to move a bit, because you fold it and then weld the edges. You don't just put a piece in and seam weld it. That's more likely to crack apparently in a crash. The other thing I'm seriously thinking of doing is the water comes in the top, runs down, and then back into the engine at the bottom, up through the pumps to the engine back here. So and then also I'm going to have my electric pump here. This is the bottom, pumping through my mini radiator, which will sit under here, and then back in halfway up the side, so it gives it a chance to mix. That's my kind of passive cooling system. I don't want this filling up with rust. I don't want, this is the very bottom, so the rust might collect here, not here. So what I could do is get a stainless steel mesh cup, put it in here over this hole, and use aluminium tabs welded on to hold it down. Then you think, well, I could do the same for these. I use an aluminium mesh or a stainless steel mesh, almost like a sieve fixed on, and then you think, well, is that going to restrict the flow at all? So the least restrictive way of doing it to get you the most surface area is to put a sheet of mesh right across here. So there's my mesh cut to size. You can see I've folded it up the edges here. So the plan is to take these plates, which are thicker aluminium than this. They've got a slight kink folded in them in the vise, so they will go there like that, clamp them in, and then I'll drill holes along here. I'll plug weld them through the mesh to the thicker aluminium behind, because it's got the slight curve there. This edge, when it's put into the tank, this edge will be against the aluminium of the tank, and it'll give me a thicker piece of aluminium to weld to, rather than just burning through. Because if you're trying to weld the thickest aluminium of the tank, it takes a bit of heat to get it to melt, by which time, if you're not careful, the thinner metal next to it has already kind of melted away. So this way I get to clamp the mesh in place and give myself some thicker aluminium to weld to. That's the plan. So here you can see the metal plates plug welded in, and then the edge here curves around so that it can weld here, 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 and wherever I can reach once it's been slid into the tank. You see, the plug welds are not perfect. They're quite difficult because the thin metal here tends to retreat away as you're plug welding through the hole to the thicker metal, but I've done it, and that's holding the mesh in. It's not going to go anywhere, so I'm reasonably pleased with that. So now I need to clean it all up, wire brush the inside of the tank that these edges are going to weld to, and then see if I can get inside to weld them. It's a bit lumpy because I'm reaching all the way in, but I've got decent welds. I'm going to come off all the way along there. So that's my filter screen. I've also just put a vertical panel in here, just to kind of tie one side to the other side. And as I said before, it's kind of folded round at the edges and welded along the edge. So I'm pretty pleased with that. Got my mesh. There's the underside. Here we go. Oh. It won't be as low as that. It'll actually, if you look, it'll actually be like that. I should just about be able to get the hoses on there. Success. Well, you can tell it's spring now. All the birds are cheeping like mad in the background, like they used to do in my earlier videos. Right, you can see this tank now is coming along. I've just got to bend that flap there. The lesson here is keep your design as simple as possible. So I'm learning this the hard way. Anyway, I'm getting there. So finally, I'm just going to weld this seam here. And then that bit there, and I've got to weld the bung in for the temperature gauge as well. And then there'll be a panel at the top with the filler port, which I'll probably do at a later date, but it means I can fill this up with water then and see if it leaks. Well, that's my best bit of welding yet. I'm quite pleased with that. All this is a bit lumpy. Well, that's nice. So it's finished apart from welding in the bung for the temperature sender, which of course has a slightly different thread. It won't quite go in, so I'm going to have to look into that. I have here an extensive collection of hoses. So I don't want to cut this loop of hose yet down to size, so I'm just using the full loop just for this test. So it's got a bit of a steampunk aesthetic there, hasn't it? Okay, here's our first leak. Okay, and we'll get the marker pen. Another one. Like you see, it's about another one here. Definite one there. Oh, turn it off quick. Right, it's filled to the brim now. Very subtle here, isn't it? I'll just put